Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Rebecca Roberts.
And I'm Dan Diker.
In our top story, the Jewish state mourned the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. Tel Aviv City Hall was lit up in the colors of the Union Jack as Israeli leaders memorialized the monarch, who became queen just 4 years after the birth of the State of Israel. Prime Minister Yair Lapid said that Queen Elizabeth leaves behind an unparalleled legacy of leadership and service. Opposition leader Benjamin Netanyahu said that the Queen was a beacon of integrity and a steward of a second Elizabethan age, which will be remembered throughout the centuries. Israeli President Isaac Herzog is expected to represent the Jewish state at the Queen's funeral on September 19th at Westminster Abbey in London.
Guatemala's foreign minister, Mario Bucaro, was in Jerusalem last week, where he signed a free trade agreement with Israel. The two countries reached $40 million in trade in 2021 alone, and the new treaty is set to increase cooperation in the areas of industry, food, and agriculture. Bucaro served as ambassador to Israel when Guatemala relocated its embassy to Jerusalem in 2018. He was recognized for his role in that monumental decision in a special ceremony in Jerusalem. Tom Hess, the president of the All Nations Convocation, together with Josh Reinstein, the president of the Israel Allies Foundation, presented Bucaro with the prestigious Covenant Award and thanked him for standing with Jerusalem as the undivided capital of the Jewish state.
Israel has thwarted dozens of Iranian terror attacks worldwide. David Barnea, the head of Israel's Mossad, reported that Jerusalem is constantly working to stop attempted attacks funded and planned by the Islamic Republic. He explained that Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has ordered the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps and other proxy militias to perpetrate attacks on Israelis and Jews across the globe. The Mossad chief said these are not spontaneous, but planned, systematic, and strategic acts of terrorism. Citing the attempted assassination of former U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton and former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Barnea cautioned that Tehran is also attempting to perpetrate attacks on the United States and Europe. He warned that the proposed Iranian nuclear deal is based on lies, which would pave the way for unrestrained Iranian terror.
The foreign minister of the United Arab Emirates, Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan, is set to visit Israel on the 2-year anniversary of the Abraham Accords. Under the leadership of former President Donald Trump, the United Arab Emirates, Sudan, Morocco, and Bahrain signed the Abraham Accords in 2020, effectively normalizing ties with the Jewish state. In celebration of this monumental occasion, the UAE's top diplomat will visit Israel, meeting with President Isaac Herzog, interim Prime Minister Yair Lapid, and opposition leader Benjamin Netanyahu. The two countries have already established a strong relationship. Israel's ambassador to the UAE, Amir Hayek, has reported that trade between the two Mideast nations has already reached $1.4 billion this year alone.
Israel's Defense Minister Benny Gantz has unveiled a map of Iranian military sites in Syria. Tehran has reportedly converted dozens of Syrian military installations into sophisticated missile and munitions factories for Hezbollah and other Iranian proxy armies. Gantz said that in addition to establishing terror industries all over Syria, Iran is building advanced weapons facilities in Lebanon and Yemen. Jerusalem has not commented on its involvement in a series of recent airstrikes, which have done major damage to the Syrian Studies and Scientific Research Center in Masyaf and a suspected Iranian militia base nearby. Gantz did note that precision surface-to-surface missiles and chemical weapons were being produced at the underground facility and said that it posed a significant threat to Israel and the region.
A major delegation of African-American Christians representing one of the world's largest evangelical churches visited Israel last week. More than 150 members of the Church of God in Christ toured the Holy Land, led by presiding bishop and chief apostle, Bishop John Drew Shared. The Church of God in Christ, or COGIC, consisting of nearly 7 million members, is the largest Pentecostal denomination in the United States. The church is known for its support of the Jewish state. The delegation was hosted by Bishop Glenn Plummer and his wife, Dr. Ruth Pauline Plummer. Dr. Plummer launched a major initiative to connect women from abroad with Israel. The first meeting of the Cultural Exchange Global Women Alliance was attended by several female Israeli leaders and a delegation of 30 representatives of the National Organization of Black Elected Legislative Women. Plummer noted that her number one desire is to build a bridge between Black America and Israel.
The war-torn country of Ukraine is preparing for thousands of Jewish visitors during the Rosh Hashanah holiday. More than 1,000 pilgrims have already arrived in the city of Uman in preparation for the masses, which were due to arrive before the Jewish New Year on September 25th. Jews travel from all over the world to visit the gravesite of Rabbi Nachman, who was the founder of the Breslov Hasidic movement. Ukrainian special forces have been working to bolster defenses in and around the city of Uman, which is still under Russian artillery fire. Both Jerusalem and Kiev have encouraged travelers not to make the journey, fearing the possibility that Russia may take advantage of the mass influx of visitors and launch another offensive attack on the city.
Israel marked the 21st anniversary of the September 11th terror attacks on America. The official ceremony was held at the 9/11 Living Memorial in Jerusalem. The service was broadcast internationally and attended by Israeli officials, the staff of the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem, as well as local firefighters and police officers. A 30-foot-high bronze sculpture of an American flag stands at the center of the memorial. A shard from New York's Twin Towers, decimated in the attack, was incorporated into the base of the statue. The 9/11 Living Memorial is the only site outside of the United States which lists the name of every victim of the September 11th assaults that killed nearly 3,000 Americans.
Israeli scientists have identified 2 antibodies that neutralize all known strains of the coronavirus. A research team at Tel Aviv University, led by Dr. Natalia Freund, has developed an antibody treatment that fights every variant of COVID-19, potentially eliminating the need for vaccine booster shots. Dr. Freund's antibodies were tested on live viruses at the University of California in San Diego and at Bar Ilan's facility in the Galilee. They corroborated her findings that the antibodies are over 84% effective in fighting the Omicron strain and 90% effective in defeating the Delta variant.
Major General Doron Almog, head of the Jewish Agency, visited Ethiopia last week ahead of a planned aliyah of hundreds of new immigrants. This was a particularly meaningful journey for Almog, who had commanded Israel's elite Sheldog unit that covertly airlifted thousands of African Jews from Sudan and Ethiopia in the 1980s. During his brief trip, Almog visited Jewish communities in Gondar and Addis Ababa. He will return to the Jewish state accompanied by 200 new immigrants. Almog said that it was great to return to Ethiopia as the chairman of the Jewish Agency to help members of the Ethiopian community realize their dream of immigrating to Israel and reuniting with their relatives in the Jewish state.
A groundbreaking new blood test developed in Israel could detect several forms of cancer. There is currently no single diagnostic test to detect pancreatic cancer, and colorectal cancer is only determined through an invasive and often uncomfortable procedure. People at risk often skip colonoscopies for fear of discomfort, but a new blood test developed in Israel can identify these cancers using just 1 milliliter of blood. Dr. Efrat Shama and her team from the Weizmann Institute of Science developed a technology which isolates and images a single molecule from blood samples to screen for these common types of cancers. Dr. Shama said that this test can also be applied to a wide range of cancers and other diseases, such as autoimmune disorders and heart disease.
Actress Shira Haas has been cast to play the Israeli superhero Sabra in the upcoming Captain America movie. Haas was nominated for Best Actress at the Golden Globe Awards for her highly acclaimed role in the miniseries Unorthodox. She also starred in the Israeli series Shtisel. Haas will play Ruth Bat Seraph, or Sabra, who first debuted in Marvel's The Incredible Hulk comics in the 1980s. Dressed in a blue and white costume adorned with the Star of David, the former Mossad agent fought the Hulk when she mistakenly believed that he was working with terrorists. The new film featuring the Israeli superhero is set to hit theaters in 2024.
A massive bird migration may cause a change in flight patterns in and out of Ben Gurion Airport. Israel is situated in a unique location between Africa, Europe, and Asia, and its skies are currently host to over 500 million birds who cross the Jewish state in order to winter in Africa. This biannual event is one of the biggest migration routes on Earth. The current migration will take place during September and October, which coincides with increased air traffic due to the Jewish high holidays. Officials at Ben Gurion Airport are reportedly working with experts from the Jewish National Fund to divert flight routes depending on the migration patterns of the birds.
Israeli archaeologists have tracked down a lost fragment of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Eitan Klein, the head of the Israel Antiquities Authority's Theft Prevention Unit, traveled to the United States in search of the mysterious Ishmael scroll. The fragmented parchment was rumored to have been given to a Christian woman who participated in archaeological excavations in Qumran in 1965. Klein tracked the artifact to the state of Montana and met with the woman's son. He brought the lost fragment to Israel for restoration and has since donated it to the Antiquities Authority. The scroll fragment dates back to the First Temple period, 2,700 years ago, and is written in ancient Hebrew.
The Israel Allies Foundation is one of the most important pro-Israel organizations in the United States and around the world. Thanks to the Israel Allies Foundation, its parliamentary caucuses, and our Christian friends and partners around the world, the bond between our faiths has never been stronger.
I just want to begin by saying thank you to the Israel Allies Foundation for bringing us together from near and far to say with one voice, America stands with Israel.
The Israel Allies Foundation is ensuring a better future for Israel, America, and the rest of the world.
Thank you all for being Israel's allies.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here in our beautiful studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Yishai Fleisher. He's the international spokesperson for Hebron. Yishai, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. Great to see you.
So Yishai, tell us a little about Hebron.
Hebron, I can keep it really short. It's 4,000 years of Jewish history. It's the first place that Abraham purchased in the land of Israel, chapter 23, book of Genesis. Abraham has his beloved wife, Sarah. She passes away. He wants to bury her and honor her because that's the way he was with his wife. Back then, when women weren't as honored, Abraham was already a completely different way of thinking about things, had a different way of thinking, and he purchases this property. He buries his beloved wife, Sarah. Later on, Abraham is buried there. Isaac and Rebekah are buried here. And also, finally, Jacob and Leah, and then Jacob finally. He's actually passing away in Egypt, and he says to his kids, don't bury me in Egypt, take me to Hebron. And so to this very day, we have this place, this site, this location that has all the forefathers and mothers, except for Rachel, who's buried in the tomb of Rachel next to Bethlehem, and Joseph in Shechem, as we say in Hebrew. But Abraham and Sarah, Isaac, Rebekah, Jacob, and Leah are buried there. Now, 2,000 years ago, King Herod, which I think the viewers here know about, he built this monument, this shrine, and it's a massive shrine, and it is completely extant. It's completely whole, and it is today continues to serve what it was initially serving from its onset, which is a building that houses the tomb of the patriarchs and matriarchs, and we have millions of visitors that come there every single year.
Look, anyone who reads the Bible knows that Hebron belongs to the Jewish people. It's even so explicit that Abraham wouldn't take it for free, you have to pay for it.
That's right.
Yet internationally, it's very controversial. People are saying we don't belong there. They're trying to make it a Muslim heritage site, which sounds ridiculous, but that's what they're actually trying to do. Where's this pushback coming from?
Well, the Muslims did control it from 1267 till 1967. Islam is a conquest religion, and it conquered the Holy Land, the land of Israel, in 1267, and later on taken over by the Turks. And they had control of it for a long time. But the truth is, it's a Jewish building built by a Jewish king on top of Jewish tombs. And in 1967, we came back and took control of it. But the enemies of Israel are very sensitive to the root of the Jewish story. They're very smart about understanding what the root is, and they want to uproot the root. So they are specifically targeting Hebron as a place. And one of the ways that they target Hebron is to make it scary. That's one of their main ways. They make it so like tourists are afraid to come, that it's a scary place. The tour guides are afraid to take you there. The tour buses are afraid to take you there. The insurance companies, this and that. And yet still with all that, we have 1 million tourists a year because people know the truth, and they want to walk in the footsteps of the founders. So we really have to not buy into the hype and continue to come there.
Yishai, I've been coming there for years, as you know. You can't get rid of me and my family. But recently, I've been watching this on the social media, in the news. You have some major people coming to Hebron. It's not just, small groups anymore. You had former Vice President Mike Pence, just recently Ben Shapiro, some very senior leaders. I think Mike Pompeo was there as well. What's happened? What's changed?
Well, we've gone into an effort of bringing influencers, and you yourself have brought VIPs to the Tomb of the Patriarchs and Matriarchs in Hebron. And that's basically what's changed, is we've realized that we've got to bring these influencers and show the world that we're not afraid. Now, Mike Pence was a great example. Here's a guy who loves the Bible. Forget about what you think of his politics or not. This is a person who just loves the Bible and feels it really, really in his heart. And he was the highest level kind of person that we brought in there in terms of his political stance. But in any case, I had to get the security and the press out of the room just to give him 1.5 minutes of like spiritual worship. And other people, we had the governor of Arizona come in, and all kinds of folks. Mark Levin came in, and people are coming in to see it for themselves and to show that they are not afraid, and to help more people come in. One of my favorite people was John Voight. He came in, and boy, wow, what a real star he is in person as well. What an amazing personality is. And it's just a great opportunity to meet people like that. But of course, if you're not that famous, you're still invited. The mothers and the fathers would love to see you.
Well, it's interesting. You said that the Muslim community understands that the Jewish people there are the root. The Christian community watches show believe that they're the branch. Is this a campaign to try to scare people off? Is it working on Christians? Are Christians coming to Israel? Bible-believing Christians coming to Hebron?
Hebron was in history a very important Christian site as well for those who wanted to connect to the root of the Abrahamic heritage. But people indeed did start getting scared. And so you don't have that many Christians show up. You have a bunch, those who are a little bit more, connected to the Jewish Bible, or what Christians call the Old Testament. And so you do have people coming, but there can be more demand. Let's put it that way. There can be a bit of more of a demand. And anybody who comes there is like wowed by the place. In Jerusalem, you meet God. In Hebron, you meet the people who walked in the footsteps of God. You meet the founders. Really, you meet the book of Genesis. In truth, also, you can meet the book of Samuel, because that's where King David started off his kingdom in Hebron for 7 years before moving to Jerusalem. But really, really, the stars are the forefathers and mothers. That's the stars of the foundation of it all, the book of Genesis.
You're putting in a new elevator to help with handicap. What's happening with that?
We wanted to create wheelchair accessible entrance to the Tomb of the Patriarchs and Matriarchs. It's the most simple thing in the world. Again, we have like 1 million people coming in, but the Islamic Waqf, which has partial control of the building, was against it. And the reason that they were against it is because they thought to themselves, if the Jews or the Israeli army shows more of a presence here by having an elevator, even though it's accessible to both Arabs and Jews, it will ground Jewish presence here even more. But the elevator is being built. It's going to be fine. It's a cool thing, and you'll be able to get in if. And it's like, I'll be honest, it's not like the most accessible place in the world. So we're working on bettering that. We're working on the bathrooms, working on little things, which is fun. Can I tell you something? There's nothing funner than actually working on ancient history. I like to say our ancient history is a work in progress.
Yishai, there are literally millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
Well, I think my message is, just like we learn in the book of Numbers, that faith in God is is part of it. And the other part of faith in God is not to be afraid, right? When you have faith, you also kind of have to be inside unafraid of all the hype and all the messages that want to scare you off. Now, one of the tactics of the terrorists is to spread terror. How do they do that? By making you afraid. So if you ever thought to yourself, I want to get a Hebron, but I'm afraid, you've been terrorized. Don't give it to them. Don't let them have that victory over you. Tell your tour guide and operator, say, I want to go to Hebron. And of course, you can go to our tours. We do English language tours twice a week, hebronfund.org/tour, hebronfund.org/tour. It's easy to get there. It's easy to connect. And just look at our Facebook page. You'll see so many smiling people connecting. So my message is, don't believe the hype. Don't believe the fear mongers, the people who sell fear. Don't believe them. Believe in the story that God is telling you, which is come and connect, like Caleb did, to the tomb of the patriarchs and matriarchs in Hebron.
Thank you, Yishai, for being on the show, and thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Karen Hayesod.
Shalom and welcome to the Return to Zion with Karen Hayesod. I'm Sam Grunberg, World Chairman of Karen Hayesod, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. The story of the Exodus boat is one of Karen Hayesod's most famous operations. Listen to the first-hand testimony of one of the brave women who fulfilled her biblical destiny by coming home.
As the dark clouds gathered over Europe, the door to the land of Israel was not yet open. Under Arab League pressure, the British ruthlessly restricted Jewish immigration. Karen Hayesod, alongside Jews already in the land of Israel, banded together and launched the clandestine naval operation, codenamed Aliyah Bet, to save their brethren from the clutches of Nazi Germany and bring them to Israel.
כשנגמרה המלחמה התחילו להתארגן יהודים לנסוע בחזרה לפולניה. ההורים שלי החליטו שהם רוצים להגיע לארץ. התחלנו לעבור את כל אירופה לכיוון מרסיי.
With careful organization and ingenuity, these brave souls defied the British authorities. Makeshift, rickety boats set sail from ports across Europe, transporting a wretched human cargo of men, women, and children desperately seeking refuge.
הגיע יום שאספו אותנו והתחלנו להתקדם. זה לקח אולי יום וחצי עד שאנחנו צעדנו בתוך מרסיי, וככה לאט לאט הגענו לאוניית האקסודוס.
Upon its arrival to the port of Haifa, the ship was deported back to Europe, thus making it a symbol of the many hardships Jews had to face during the time of Aliyah, immigrating to their historical homeland.
ראינו את אוניות הבריטים, המשחטות שלהם, מסביב כמו דגי טרף כל הזמן. כמו שאנחנו נסענו, הם נסעו. ואז הגיע היום, ראינו שהאוניות מתחילות להתקרב אלינו, וגם ראינו את חיפה, את האורות כבר. וכולם התחילו לשמוח מאוד שרואים אורות, אבל אני מבינה שהיו אנשים שהבינו שמתחיל קרב וזה. הם התחילו לשחק כדורגל, האנגלים עם האונייה. אחד נתן דחיפה ימינה, השני שמאלה, והאונייה התחילה להתפרק כמו לגו. בחיפה הורידו את האנשים, עשו עליהם פליט עם כל הכעס שהיה להם, והעבירו אותנו לאוניות, ל3 אוניות. זו הייתה אוניית אסירים. הם זרקו את כל התרמילים, אנשים נשארו כמו שעלו, בלי בגדים, בלי שום כלום.
Undeterred, the overcrowded, unseaworthy vessels of Aliyah Bet continued to challenge the blockade. Young Jewish fighters, aided by their non-Jewish sailors, succeeded in bringing more than 70,000 Jews home to the land of their forefathers in more than 100 vessels.
עם ישראל צריך להיות כולו בארץ ישראל. זה ראינו בכל הדורות.
Those who made it ashore were swiftly smuggled into the future Jewish state by daring activists from Keren HaYesod and elsewhere. Evading capture, the new arrivals were taken to kibbutzim and other new communities to live as free Jews in their own land, fulfilling the dreams of countless generations before them. And in doing so, they brought to life Zechariah's prophecy, "Not by might and not by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord."
זה המקום היחיד שאתה יודע שאתה בארץ שלך, על הקרקע שלך, כמו כל עם נורמלי אחר.
To this day, Keren HaYesod is helping Jews around the world come home with the help of Jews and non-Jews alike.
Let's bless Israel together.
Now's the time for you to get involved. Assist Keren HaYesod to raise the necessary funds in order to bring Jews yearning for their homeland back to Israel. Your donation can help fulfill the biblical prophecy today. To donate and get information, visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
We are living in mysterious yet miraculous times. We've witnessed the most remarkable fulfillment of biblical prophecy, the Jewish people's return to Israel, and the prosperity and contributions of this tiny country in such a short time. Yet we've also seen an unexpected rise in anti-Semitism, which takes the form of anti-Zionism and alliances between groups that are fighting against the most fundamental biblical values. In the book Titus, Trump, and the Triumph of Israel, Josh Reinstein answers important questions to clarify what has driven political action from the time that the Roman Emperor Titus destroyed Jerusalem until today, when President Trump recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Get your copy today and learn how faith-based diplomacy has changed the world. To order your advance copy, go to triumphofisrael.com.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Rebecca Roberts.
And I'm Dan Diker, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all your Israel updates.